and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori La Bey, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi everyone. It's Lori La Bey with Alzheimer Speaks, and it's open mic today. So I always like to see who's behind the curtain. We never quite know who's going to show up, but we always have a fascinating conversation, and one that I think you will find very informative and typically lighthearted as well. People who have been on the journey typically know that you have your highs and your lows with all of this. And so, everything that's told is going to typically be from a really authentic space. But before I pull back the curtain and see who is here, I always like to just remind people to please check out our website, Alzheimer Speaks. A lot of people think all I do is the radio show or podcast, whatever the heck you want to call it these days. And we have all kinds of free resources there. We have one whole section that is just educational resources that are free, from printed material to a variety of different types of videos and blogs and all kinds of stuff, along with our speaking and training programs and our book, Betty the Bald Chicken. And then also our sister company is Dementia Map. And if you're not familiar with that, you're going to want to check that out. That is a free global resource directory. And if you have any resources, products, or tools, we urge you to sign up. There's both free and paid profiles that you can have. And to anybody who visits, it is free for you to access 24/7, and we don't ask for any of your contact information at all there. So one other product I want to shout out to you is Twiddle, which has some sensory tools that are absolutely fantastic, especially for sundowning, or if you have somebody who is agitated. You can go to their website at Twiddle, at 4, the number 4, and then twiddle.com. So with no further ado, let's go see who's behind the curtain. Well, hello, ladies. I always like opening the curtain and peeking back and seeing who's here. So I'm thrilled. We're really lucky to have these three ladies with us today, and you're going to hear from each of them, and you are going to know exactly why I am so excited. Everybody is doing some really cool stuff. I'm going to have them each introduce themselves first. So Linda, if you don't mind sharing just briefly who you are, and let people know you've been touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends as well.
So I am the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. I'm a caregiver advocate, but my journey started when my mother moved to Florida, and shortly after she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Well, my mom also had dementia, but I didn't know she had dementia because she's goofy like me. And then she was doing some chemo drugs. So I wrote a book about the last 18 months of my life with my mom. And when I went out to promote it, every time people came up to me crying. And that was 5,000 support groups, workshops, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to help the caregivers in any way I can to mostly find the joy in the journey.
Wonderful. Thank you. Claire, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Claire Richardson. I'm the Outreach and Resource Development Manager for an organization called Dementia Together. We're a nonprofit that serves those living with dementia, the care partner, families, and the greater community with education, enrichment, and support. I've had very many family members who've been affected by dementia, and then my own mom. We have noticed signs and symptoms for the last 8 years. She does not have a professional diagnosis, but it's been something that we've seen a decline over the years, and especially in the last couple of years. But I'm so thankful for the organization I work with because it's given me the tools to help. I love what Linda said. That's our mission, is joy on the journey, is we've truly been able to have that. And I'm just so blessed by that. So.
Yeah.
Claire's group, I just have to say, Dementia Together is like the premier dementia friendly community in the United States, as far as I'm concerned. They are doing things that others aren't doing. They're doing it consistently, and they are always looking at how to do things better, being creative, and again, making
Yeah.
sure people are having fun along the way and getting educated, just taking that scary out. So it's really very cool organization, and one that everybody should be looking at. Julie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Julie Moore, and I am a retired Army veteran. I spent 30 years of my life in the military, and my connection to dementia is in 2016. My oldest brother at the time was 54 and diagnosed with early onset frontal temporal dementia. Dementia does run in our family. Our grandmother had it. I did have a sister-in-law that also had it. But it really hit us hard when our brother was diagnosed with it at such a young age. So in 2020, I ended up taking him as well as our mom, who was living with breast cancer. I took them both in and became their full-time caregivers.
Wow, we're going to hear some powerful stories and some interesting things that are coming up. So thank you for sharing. Linda, I'm going to have you go ahead and dive deeper and just, this is our open mic, so we share the time here. But you've got some cool things rolling out here really quick.
Well, I have a virtual conference coming up May 6th, 7th, and 8th. In fact, Lori will be one of our presenters. So it's totally virtual for caregivers, totally free for caregivers. It's 3 days with 18 speakers. But the cool part about it is I don't expect anybody to sit there for 3 full days. I'm running it and I can barely do it. But anyone who registers for the conference within 30 days receives all the videos from the conference free of charge to watch whenever they want, or to share with their sister, or to remind themselves, or the one that they missed when mom went to the bathroom. So once again, it's about, it was a gift of COVID, these things that I'm doing, because we couldn't be together. But now caregivers can come to a virtual conference and not leave their home and not have to find someone to take care of their loved one, not have to get dressed up or find a parking spot. So the opportunities are so much more available. And then to have that opportunity to share part of the conference with my sister, or let me just watch it again. So it's very exciting. And like I say, we have a big lineup coming. We always have a hospice. We always have an elder care attorney. We talk about a lot about caregiver burnout. We talk about remedies. We talk about spirituality, sometimes Parkinson's, because I'm not a expert on Alzheimer's and dementia, but I'm an expert on caregivers.
You're doing this the 3 days in May, the 6th, 7th, and 8th. What time does that run? And I know
It's
you're Eastern time, so
9 to 3,
Mhm.
and anybody can go and register. Registration is open now. They go to connectingcaregiversconference.com.
Okay. And we will put that in the show notes for you as well.
Thank you.
On that. But the lineup is pretty impressive in the variety of speakers and things that you have. I know I'm personally excited to be part of that with you. And one of the things, Linda, that I really want to commend you on, because not most people don't do this. Most people do these types of conferences to sell the videos and make money after the fact. So the fact that you are allowing people to watch these videos, because like you said, who can sit that long, especially if you're caring for somebody? And
Right.
it's so, when you go to conferences, it's nice to be able to share that information with other people in your circle, or others that are dealing with the same thing. And that can be, professionals as well as family members.
And just an education for everybody. My grandson comes over the house with his friends, and when they walk in the door, I say, take out your phone, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I go, and then start watching some of my stuff, because you boys are going to be taking care of me one day. And they're like, oh, well, a couple of weeks ago, I met the one boy in the supermarket And he says to me, Grandma, I thought that was kind of weird, you having our YouTube channel. He goes, but I went and I looked at it and I showed it to my grandpa and it's helping him with my grandma.
We have to invite the kids in. And we
Yeah, I mean, well, we still do it ourselves.
Mhm.
People think it's a little shameful. People don't talk about it. I live in a community with probably 200 townhomes. I bet just 70 are impaired somewhere with cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, dementia. It is, we're living so much longer than we did before.
Yeah, probably on the low side.
Yeah, I'm just guessing.
When I talk with communities around, well, actually around the world, most of them will say no matter what level they are, it's not just memory care, it's not just nursing homes, but the assisted living, the market rate, most of them will say, 80 to 90%, they see, people having some issues and not severe enough to necessarily slow them down in terms of
Right.
living life, still being able to partake. Um, and then others have more severe issues and disease has progressed and stuff, so there's all different kinds of levels, and I think once we learn to accept that
Yeah.
alone takes the scary out, that you can still live life with the
Well,
disease.
a couple of months ago, I'm in my mail room and there are two ladies in there I don't know. And the one lady opens her mailbox and it was so full that all the mail fell out on the floor. And she started crying. And I'm thinking, it's just mail. So I'm helping her pick up the mail. And she says to me, my husband has dementia and I can't even pick up my mail. And the other lady in the mailroom says, my husband has dementia too. And I'm like, you girls need to be friends and you need to be friends with me. And they are. And now I see them, the four of them, walking around the community. They were at the clubhouse. The men were playing their own game of pool, and the ladies were just chatting.
It really takes the scary out when you can remove that loneliness and isolation, and
Yeah.
it can be done so simply.
Yeah.
And that overwhelming bit is, it takes its toll
Yeah.
on so many. So I'm so glad that you're here to talk about and share this conference coming up. So get this on your schedule, peeps. May 6th, 7th, and 8th. If you don't show up every day, that's okay. You'll
Yep.
get on the list to be able to get those videos and that education anyways. And again, a nice variety of speakers and things that you have. You're also having what is it?
AE Corner,
Yes.
adaptive equipment.
Yeah. And they have great tips
Oh,
in terms of stuff too.
they are absolutely fabulous. They've been a part, this is the 8th conference. They've been a part of every single conference. And
Yeah.
so every day at lunchtime, there's like 20 minutes, and they show us the newest and greatest gadgets and things and everything that they've personally tested.
Mhm.
Not just things that people are sending to them. And they're fun and they're alive and they just help our caregivers so much. They're both therapists, occupational.
So it's not just anybody talking about products, it's people that really know about them as well.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot through them alone, and they're very resourceful, as are you. So thank you for sharing time with us today, Linda, and letting us know.
Thank
Claire,
you.
you want to tell us what's going on with you guys at Dementia Together?
Yes, thank you. There's always a million things going on at a nonprofit. We're all running in a million different directions, but obviously for the same goal. We have our current Joy on the Journey annual fundraiser. It's a community annual fundraiser that's geared to not only create awareness about the impact and the resources that we have available in the community, but to bring our community together as well so that they can create relationships, have that social connection, and all just learn a lot more about what we do as an organization. This fundraiser is one of our bigger events that helps to raise money for our organization. All of the education, enrichment, and support services that we provide to families is offered at no charge. So we therefore have to raise funds so that we can continue to provide those services. So this is our annual fundraiser to do that. So I know you've got a ton of audience across the country who may not be able to fly to the event, but you can make a donation if it feels right or brings your heart joy to support the mission of our work. on our Give page. And we also have Lori speaking as our keynote speaker. We have a gentleman, Ricky Dixon. He's the former CEO of Bluebell, speak as a speaker as well. And it's just going to be a night of inspiration and hope.
So why don't you tell people where you're located and some of the services that you provide too?
Yeah, that'd be great. And so just real quick, that event is on April 24th from 5:30 to 8:30. We're located in Colorado. That event will be specifically in Loveland, Colorado at the Ranch Event Center. The services that we provide to families and beyond, and I'll kind of get into that. First, one of our pillars is education. So we provide the speckle education to families and care partners first, so that they not only can care well for their person living with dementia, but truly promote lifelong well-being for the person living with dementia and themselves. We also take that further into different layers of providing education to senior care and healthcare communities, and then first responders as well. So we do education, speckle education through the lens of senior care, through the lens of first responders. We have scenarios that we work with those individuals and those groups specifically to help them manage situations that they may come across when working with people living with dementia. And we also work to try to train. This kind of goes along with our hope, but we try to train and add tools to the doctor's toolkits by providing patient resource folders. So they're a really nice folder that has information on diagnosis, but then also how to immediately get connected to our resources and just feel like they've got hope. So a lot of times when people have been given the dementia-related diagnosis, they're given that with, you've got dementia, come back and see me in a year, or you've got dementia, there's no hope. And there truly needs to be a change in that delivery. And so what our hope is those folders can be the tangible hope that a doctor can add to their toolkit to provide to the patient when delivering that dementia-related diagnosis, making them feel that, oh my goodness, I can get connected. I don't have to be floundering for the next year or 6 months on figuring out how or what to do. So we offer that. And then we offer enrichment programs, which are a variety of things. So we're most well known for our memory cafes that we not only offer here locally, but we also offer them virtually as well. We have a lot of people who sign on with their loved one or want to join in, because we do offer mobile memory cafes at care communities. So we may have a daughter or a son or a family member who wants to see their mom and kind of participate in those activities. So we provide those, and those are all themed social gatherings to promote social connection, reminiscing, and just to have joy and fun. And then in addition to the memory cafes, we do men's luncheons, women's luncheons. We do speckle sports. You mentioned pool, Linda. We have men and women who both come and play pool, or they go bowling. We also have our Be Sharp engagement, where those are designated nights that not only the Lincoln Center, which is the symphony here in Fort Collins, and the symphony in Greeley, have given us generously donated tickets to our organization. So participants living with dementia, their care partner, or their family can have a normal night at the symphony where they can feel like, they can just be one with everybody and enjoy the night and enjoy music. And it is truly so fun to go and to see the smiles on people's faces of just experiencing beautiful music and being together.
Yeah, you guys do a lot. Do you know about how many memory cafes you do a month? Because I know it's quite a few.
Oh my goodness. So we have 4 major ones, and with a 5th one in Estes Park, and then we do 2 virtual memory cafes online.
Fabulous.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
remember looking through your annual report at all the different things you have done. And, the Speckle program, people might not be as familiar with it. And it's a very cool concept. Like Claire said, that came from the UK. And as a lot of people know, but many don't, they are so far advanced in terms of their concepts and how they integrate community and things like that. And that is one of the things that makes me so excited about you guys leading the pact on that, because Cindy Lazinski, their executive director, I mean, she is just such a compassionate soul, and everybody on their team just has a heart, and for really caring. And so it's so neat to see, and it's so wonderful to hear people go, well, this is an interesting concept, and yet
Yeah.
it's simple to apply, but it's not simple when you don't know it exists, and it can change lives in so many ways. The other thing that I kind of scream from the rooftops what you guys are doing with the medical professionals and getting those packets
Oh,
out. That every single dementia friendly community, in my opinion, should be doing that. That should be number one first stop.
yeah.
And it just is not happening. And I get really frustrated because I, like all of you, probably hear the stories of people going in, getting diagnosed, and sitting in their car for 2 hours before they can drive because they're so devastated. And that should not be happening to people
No.
at all. There are so many resources out there that people don't know about. And that's one of the reasons we created the dementia map, was to try to put those things in one place to be able to support people. And like with Linda's program, she's doing a conference. She's in Florida, but anybody around the world can participate in that. And Claire, you're doing some memory cafes where, again, you're online.
Yeah.
People, all of us can help one another. All of us can engage with one another, and we have to get out of that trained, kind of pounded in our head thought that it has to be in our backyard to help us.
Yeah.
There is,
And there's plenty of business for all of us.
yes,
Let's not
exactly.
worry about that.
And
Let's
if
just
it's
be friends and help each other.
and if it's not in your backyard, you and some friends can probably start something and get going in your backyard, because those one-on-ones are important. The support groups are
Hmm.
absolutely fabulous, but it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah,
Life
it's not
with
rocket science.
No, and life with dementia can be complicated and overwhelming. So we want to keep things simple, and we want to keep things friendly, and we want people to
Yeah.
feel connected. And like Linda, you connecting two women in the mail room. I mean, that was life changing for them, I'm sure. Being able to have a friend to go for a walk or go play pool. The guys can play pool and they can chit chat.
Yeah.
Those simple little things, we forget how important they really are.
Mhm.
But again, as caregivers, we usually don't talk about how overwhelmed we are because we're too busy trying to pretend we're in control. And so,
I'm okay.
yeah,
I'm okay.
yeah. And with Claire's, conference too, if you're not there, you can donate,
Yeah.
anywhere and still help make an impact with things. So, Linda, do you also take donations?
Um, Not really, but if
Okay.
anybody wants to, they could.
Okay. So,
You know,
yeah,
I'm very blessed that of the sponsors that I have, of the partners that I have, because that's what makes everything happen.
well, but you're the little engine that pulled the partners together, so that all is a big piece. So again, with Dementia Together, again, if you want to make a donation, please feel free to do that. Are either of you doing like silent auctions at all? I know Linda's saying no. Claire, how about you guys?
Yes, we will have a silent auction at our event, and then just the normal ways to give. And yeah, should be a really, really good night.
Okay. And with the
Yeah.
silent auction, is that some of them have it online where people can participate, or is it just going to be in person? People do it both ways.
So with ours, our theme is the good old days, and we truly are going back to the good old days. So at many of our last fundraisers that we've had, we have a portion who are very tech savvy, and then a portion that prefer the good old days of handwriting those, silent auction bids in. So we've truly planned to embrace the old fashioned way of writing in. So we won't have silent auction items online. Our only way to participate would be to give online.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Julie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what all you are up to?
Well, first, I'd like to compliment Linda and Claire and even yourself, Lori, because even though my caregiving days are currently over, um, and I learned a lot during those years, I'm still learning, and not realizing like, wow, how much is out there that's available to people, and I would have loved to include it in my book. So it is my book that is the latest thing that I've done. I've recently finished my first book, and it is a story about my experience caring for two of my family members. My oldest brother, when he was 54 years young, was diagnosed with early onset frontal temporal dementia. And our mom, who had been in remission from breast cancer, received an additional diagnosis that it had returned in her spine. And at the age of 77, she ended up taking my brother in to care for him for a couple of years until it just really became too much. And I took them both in 2020. They both have since passed away. But the book that I wrote, the title of it is called I Am Their Voice, because during my journey, I really discovered that interacting with medical people, different facilities, to just their individual doctors on, separately, I really found that I had to speak up for each of them, for whatever their wishes were.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to just, especially with my brother, he's the one that needed the most help, because by the time I took him in, I was someone had to do all of his ADLs, activities of daily living. So interacting with just EMS, hey, he has dementia, he cannot communicate. If he gets a little agitated, this is what, pull your phone out, put on some classical piano music and it will settle him. And it was because of my interaction with him when I was caring for him and learning how to best calm him, or what will get him on his feet and dancing like he used to in the good old days, um, but sharing that information with medical personnel, and then too, the frustration, like you said, Claire, or Claire, where you're handing out this information to the doctors or medical professionals. When we found out that he had dementia, we were given this little flyer and basically said, good luck, go
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
And that is so frustrating. And it's still happening. And, once again, I'm still learning. I just learned a couple of weeks ago. I recently signed up with AFTD to volunteer for them. And I did my first meet and greet last week. It went really well. But prior to that, I met with another volunteer with AFTD. He is also an ambassador. But I live in Southwest Florida. And here in Fort Myers, there's a facility called the Dubin Center. Never heard of it. And they are, from what I've been told, I'm still learning, but they provide training to caregivers or the person diagnosed. And it's all free. They provide all these services. And then they also offer support groups, whether it's in person or online. And again, I'm still learning, and I'm in awe. As part of my book launch that I'm going to be launching here in a couple of weeks, I do have a website, and the website is live, but it just says book not available yet. But I'm going to be adding to that website and adding resources. So Claire, I'd love to add Dementia Together on there, and Linda, whatever you're doing, I'd love to add that on there. And because there
It's
there should
amazing.
be a better system in place, and I'm a processes person, so that just fueled my anxiety, and I'm like, where's the process?
Yeah.
What are the steps? Why
Yeah.
is this? I am not the first person to deal with this. Why is this still
Right.
going on? So but that's my story.
Can I tell you ladies about a great company when we're talking about EMT workers and conversing? So a friend of mine has a company, it's called Catalyst for Connections. Her name is Jessie Brown. So her dad lived in a memory community and he had lived there maybe a month. And one night they call her up and they say, he's like so agitated, we don't know what to do. Like, we can't understand what he wants. Will you please come? So she goes there. Now, you know, when you go into a community, you fill out 42 pages about mom or dad, and hopefully the first round reads them, maybe the second round. Well, as soon
Exactly.
as his daughter gets there, she knows he's trying to start a softball game. He was a coach for 25 years. He was in the original Super Bowl. So
Wow.
what she did is she made a QR code about her dad, 3 little short videos, and she put the QR code on the door of his room with a note. Anybody that watches these videos, I will buy them a thing of Starbucks coffee. And everybody from
Wow.
the janitor to the executive director watched the video. And then they're like, hey, we didn't know you were in the Super Bowl. Oh, we didn't know you had 7 kids or whatever. So
Wow.
now you can go to her website now and make your own QR code. So she also had it printed on business cards. So like if her dad has to go in an ambulance somewhere, she gives it to the EMT workers and they're like, hey, we didn't know you were in the Super Bowl.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Is that
Brilliant.
brilliant?
Brilliant.
That, that would be wonderful added to the dementia card,
Well, she has
have.
it. She's like testing it in 9 communities now and a few others. I just made one for myself. You know, God forbid, I could go out and have a car accident tonight and be brain whatever.
Yeah.
I want them to know what kind of ice cream I like and what kind of shows I want to watch.
Yeah.
Like for us working with families and trying to work with them, for as long as possible, if anything, for a couple of times to not only get them trained on the education that we provide, but Julie, I love what you said because we do something similar. It's called our passport program where we work with the family to create a 1 page because no, there's not many communities that will read 42 pages of what
Right.
this person was at their finest hour. And we constantly are updating that with families or having the families updated as it changes or as the disease progresses because the person's living or person living with dementia, their likes and needs get
Yeah.
smaller and smaller. So
Yeah.
it may just be like at that end stage, all you need is the classical music, or all you need to do is talk about softball, or it might be that one thing that triggers them to help them to
Right.
not be agitated or to bring joy or just to have them feel like they've got purpose. And we found that the success rate of return of getting somebody into a community if they're going to transition their loved one is so much more successful when the families have a passport to go in there and talk about, because yes, the staff will engage, people posted on the doors, they can go in and look at something just to immediately interact with that person. They
Yeah.
don't have to know the entire family history. And it just makes the whole experience so much better and that more individualized profiling to understand the person living with dementia. So
Well,
Yeah.
it has like 3 short videos. I guess you could have more
yeah,
if you want, but and one was when he was first still verbal, and she said chocolate ice cream, and he said no. She said strawberry. He said yes. And at the end, she asked a few others, and at the end, she said, "If all else fails and my dad is agitated, just give him a hot dog with mustard and relish, and he'll be a happy man." Well, how good is it to know that?
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So helpful.
Yeah.
it
Uh,
is. It's really the small things I think that get overlooked. And Claire, I liked what you said about, helping people with these passports so that they have time to think to fill that out, before they enter.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, I mean, you just get overwhelmed with all of this stuff, and then they send you home and go, you can review it later. Like, when do
Yeah.
I have time to
Yeah.
review it later? Because they might be living with you, but that my job has not ended with all the other things that I have to take care of for them, plus, my own life and personal and work
And
on top
family.
of it. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. My mom's been gone 10 years now, and she lived with dementia for 30. And I was, of course, a frustrated daughter. That's why I got into all of this. But I am now dealing with a neighbor, a friend, and a relative And it's really sad, but not a whole heck of a lot has changed in the medical system at all.
Right.
And as far as knowledge base and communities, and it just, I know we've made a lot of progress. I mean, I know we have, because we're all talking, we're all doing different
Exactly.
things. We're located, around the country, and we talk with people around the world. But again, it really takes a tribe of us to all get connected, because when we're connected, our voices are louder and it travels further, helping people,
Yeah.
being able to find those resources. I had to laugh when Julie mentioned the place that had all these free resources. Linda, because you're down in Florida too, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out if you knew that company or if that was
No, I
something.
don't, and I'm anxious to know about it because I'm in the Tampa Bay area. I'm in Seminole between Clearwater and St. Pete.
Oh, yeah. I used to live up in Tampa, Oldsmar area.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so
find out everything. Let me know. We'll get together.
Absolutely.
oh gosh. Well, this has been a fun conversation. Are there anything that you guys want to ask one another, or additional topics that you'd like to bring up and just address? It could be something that you're doing, or a need that you see, or something that you see someone else doing that's really cool that you want to give them a pat on the back for.
Well, one thing I would like to say, besides myself doing live support groups and Zoom support groups, I also do a monthly journaling workshop for caregivers via Zoom. So that's a little different because it's for for that person that says, I don't want to be in no support group. And I go, well, why don't you come to the journaling workshop? And I'll throw out a prompt and just say, like, I remember when. And someone will say, I remember when I could still have a really good conversation with my husband. And somebody else will say, yeah, I remember that too. And then before you know it, but it's just a different approach for some people that works out really well. And we've been doing it for a couple of years. And I asked the gals a couple of weeks ago, what's the best part of this? And then we made new friends.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
need we made new friends that know what I'm going through.
Well, and that's such a critical piece. People that know what you're going through, because I got frustrated, and sometimes I still do with family, and like, how do you not get this?
Right.
It's not like the conversations haven't been had, but they haven't been heard. They've been listened to, but they haven't really been heard and processed, because it's so uncomfortable, and so many people don't want to deal with the emotions, and then the poor caregivers are in overload with emotions that they're feeling. And that, having that hand reached out and feeling like, gosh, they get me. I
Yeah.
mean, that makes all the difference in the world. I know with I do memory cafes and support groups as well. And the number one thing that I hear is that they are their lifeline.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
anyone out there is resisting them, I was with you. I don't have time to do another thing
Exactly.
for my mom, because I saw this, and this is really silly, but I really thought the support group was for her. I mean, even though I knew I was going,
I
it was
know.
it was another thing that I needed to
Please.
do for her. And it's like, I can't. And people have heard me say this before on the show, but we always get new listeners. I ended up going to a support group to hear a speaker friend. That's the only reason I went, because I did not need help. I did not
Uh-uh.
have time for help. I mean, that's how I was. And I got there and he was sick. And then I was like stuck. I was stuck in this group. I couldn't like leave, because that would be rude. And so I was like, I mean, that's how I really felt. And I was like, oh my gosh, when's this going to be over, is what I'm thinking.
My
It
God.
was the best thing that happened to me, because of
Yeah.
the conversations and the stories. And one of the questions the facilitator asked was, and we went around and we all shared, what's the one thing you miss the most? A very simple
Yeah.
question, but one that is not really asked to people who are caring. And for me, it was, my mom couldn't give me a hug anymore, because she just couldn't do that. And the stories all varied, but they were all heartfelt, and they were all simple
Yeah.
little things that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
but that are so important. And it was like, okay, I'm coming back now. I mean, they just won me over. The other thing that I think is so interesting with these groups is I think sometimes people think they're going to be real cliquey. And I, for the most part,
No
with the
way.
dementia groups have not found that. And people come in and are so welcomed and feel so comfortable.
Yep.
I always say that, like with our memory cafes, when we first started them, we would get people who were apprehensive, and usually the care partner wanted to come, but the person with dementia didn't because they didn't have dementia. So, what's this all about? Or I'm not talking about it, even if I think
Right.
I might. And it was causing big conflicts within the families. But then they would give in and they'd show up, and then all the family members, because they would a lot of times reach out to me and go, how'd it go, how'd it go, how'd it go,
Yeah.
because they were kind of hoping for a miracle.
Hoping, praying.
And after the first meeting, if not the first, by the second for sure, that couple, and typically it was husbands and wives, they were fully on board. They were no longer embarrassed, ashamed. They were comfortable with laughing with some of the stuff that happened.
Oh yeah.
They were comfortable with crying in front of people who
Yep.
were strangers that became friends real quick. And they were set to, I mean, if I said I've got a TV anchor that wants to interview you, they were all like this immediately, because they didn't feel alone and they felt
Right.
the power of the connections.
And they were learning.
Yes.
And they were learning.
And
And we're helping each other.
Yep. And they share so much. I think everybody goes into those groups thinking they know nothing. And then as they start sharing, it's like, oh, I know more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
And I still learn new things.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
None of us will ever be experts in
Yeah.
this. It's constantly changing. So, Julie, anything that you wanted to add or ask, or?
No, other than Claire, if you wouldn't mind, add your contact information in the chat there.
Yes, I was going to, and then I was worried I can't talk and text at the same time. I had that panic moment. So yes, I will do that before we're over.
Okay. Claire, anything that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I would love to share that we just finished training several speckle coaches on our speckle method. And one of them is from Costa Rica. She speaks fluent Spanish. And so we will have our first virtual Spanish speckle class on
Fabulous.
April 10th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So it is virtual, so anyone across the United States and beyond can attend. We're just so excited because we have had, people want to take the class, want to care for their loved one, but that language barrier has definitely been a tricky one. And so that will be the launch to Spanish Speckle. So
I've
Awesome.
never heard of Speckle. What is that?
So Speckle is the education method that we have brought over from the Contented Dementia Trust. It's simple, counterintuitive strategies that promote lifelong well-being for the person living with dementia and the care partner. What I love to chat, well, I love it so much is it uses a photograph album analogy to represent not only our normal aging system, but someone who is living with dementia. So if you can imagine, photographs are flying into our album, just almost like breathing. We just don't even notice that it's happening, to give us context of why we're here, why we're doing things, all those facts and feelings that go throughout the day. So when someone has been diagnosed with dementia, a new photograph comes into the album. Our photographs are comprised of a fact and a feeling, and that new photograph for the person living with dementia comes up as a blank. It doesn't mean that it's void, but it means that it does not store the fact anymore, but it does store the feeling. So we talk about feelings being more important than facts. And so if we can understand that facts are no longer storing, we teach the 3 golden rules. So our first golden rule is we don't ask direct questions. And for every rule, there's a tool. We utilize statements, or the questionless question. So if we know that they're may not be storing facts, and we don't know which facts they're not storing, Even asking the simple question of, would you like a cup of coffee? Can get them to ask their album again, well, do I want a cup of coffee? Did I already have a cup of coffee? Do I even like coffee? Where am I? Where's my car? Who am I with? Do I have money? Like all these things. And so if we're able to just come in and say, oh, the coffee's ready, or I sure love a cup of coffee, it gives the person the option to respond or not to respond. So we practice the questionless question. And then our second golden rule is the person living with dementia is the expert. They're the expert on knowing how to cope with a blanking album. So we like to make a present of the past. So all the album pictures before the person had dementia have the facts and the feelings that have stored. So if we can utilize those to make a present of the past, so building on album pages that they may be going back to make sense of why they're doing something today. So if for some reason I went to a party and I'm sitting at a table and I say, I want to order dinner now, that's reasonable because I may be matching back to a time where I was at a dinner setting, but I'm at a party and someone says, well, you're at a party, you're not at a dinner. Like we wouldn't contradict them and say
Correct.
that. We just are like, yeah, that's great. Like, let's order now.
Right.
So we utilize what they're saying to help them make sense of today.
Sure.
And then obviously the last one is the third golden rule is don't contradict. And I think that's pretty staple one in the dementia community, but I think with spouses, that can be a tricky one. I've noticed that with my dad and mom. So,
Yeah.
so as easy as that can be for many, it is very hard. I love to say that our speckle education is simple, yet it takes practice. So we highly recommend attending not just one class, but multiple classes and then building on into our workshops after that. It's helpful to go to a class, practice one of the golden rules, go to a class, practice another golden rule to really get that ingrained. And I have to say from my own personal experience, it's just been life-changing in how I interact, not only with my mom, but anyone else who may or may not have dementia that I'm interacting with in the world. So
Sure. Some of those aspects kind of remind me of Teepa Snow's
Yeah.
teachings, if you will. And I kind of discovered her late in my caregiving role. But I really clung to a lot of things that she would teach or share, especially like, you know, don't contradict. It's,
Yeah.
you let them lead in this scenario or role and you just follow their lead, but you kind of guide them,
Right.
Sure.
you know, in the right direction. So
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, you've got Naomi File, Tifa, Penny Gardner with the Speckle program, are some of the primary ones out there. But I think everyone pretty much is in agreement that it's about comfort
Yeah.
and it's about making somebody feel safe and
Yeah.
understanding that. And again, this is a pet peeve of mine, how we always call a reaction that we don't like a behavior.
Yeah.
But even those words are so negative. You know, how would you like to be told you have a behavior over and over or be scolded constantly?
Exactly.
I mean, that's not going to help. I mean, it's like, okay, if you have kids, look at your teenagers. You know, if you tell them not to do something, what are they going to do? You know, you know, and a person with dementia doesn't, you know, typically, again, depending on how far progressed they are, have the capability to push buttons. And that's where family members usually go, they're just doing this to push my buttons. They've done it all my life. And it's like, no, that's really kind of habit. It's not a plan type thing. And you're reacting how you've always reacted. And we're the ones that have the ability to change. And so, you know, just having that conversation with people and getting them to understand. I know with one person I'm caring for, I know we do every morning we go over like medications and things like that. And we do it over the phone, and it takes us for medications and insulin and all the things that we have to do. It can take us 10 minutes if we're really, you know, just going smooth, or it can take us 45. And
Oh,
then after it's done, I can get a phone call every 3 minutes. Now, did I take my medication? How am I on my insulin? And that can go on every 3 minutes for a half an hour. And people go, how can you do that and not snap back? And it's like, because I understand that
yeah,
she's scared and she's panicked and she wants to feel safe. And
yeah,
so we just repeat it. And when you just answer the question in a friendly fashion, you're not escalating the fear, you're not escalating the frustration within yourself. It's just you're doing it and you're getting past it, and the phone rings again.
yeah,
And again, I know it's not easy all the time, but I always look at it like I have an analogy of even when someone is following you all the time, because that's a complaint a lot of caregivers have, is like, I can't
yeah,
even go to the bathroom by myself anymore. They're just
exactly.
always on my heels. And I always say, flip the coin and think about a little kid who always needed their little blankie, and that was their security blanket. You have become their security blanket. You're the one
Exactly.
that they need to feel safe and comfortable. And
Exactly.
when I look at it like that, I think what an honor that I am picked to be their
Yeah,
person. And
yeah,
then that changes everything for me.
yeah.
When I frame it like that, it's not a menace, it's not a burden, it's not
It's a privilege.
irritating, it's a privilege. Exactly. So I think a lot of what we need to do in our dementia care is really changing our mindsets and what we've been taught, that this is a horrible disease. Granted, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but you are going to get what you're looking for. That's what you're going to find if that's what you're looking for. And people need to be taught that there is joy in the journey, just like all three of you have said. And we have to teach them to look for that because it exists. It just might look a little bit different
Yep.
than what it was, but it will not only give them comfort, it'll give you comfort as well. So, what a nice way to wrap up today. Thank
Yeah.
you, ladies, so much. I'm going to go over to each of you one more time so you can give a plug for your book or your conference. Julie, you want to go first?
Sure. My website is the title of my book, which is iamtheirvoice.com. And you can go on there now, anyone that's listening, and you can click on contact. If the book hasn't been released by the time you get to the website, click on contact, fill out the information. It will email me your email address so that I can inform you immediately when it is released, which hopefully should be in about 2 weeks.
Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Claire, you want to give contact information out for you as well?
Sure. So Claire Richardson, Dementia Together. You can reach me at outreach at dementiatogether.org or our
Okay.
website, dementiatogether.org.
And that's where they can register to or donate as well.
Yes, ma'am. So if you go to dementiatogether.org, you'll get a little pop-up that comes just about our fundraiser on April 24th. You can go right there or go to our community page. There's our annual events listed and find us there.
Fantastic. Linda, you want to give a plug in contact information for your event as well?
Yes, the conference is connectingcaregiversconference.com. If anybody wants further information about me, my website is lindaburhans.com, where you'll see the radio show, the Tuesday tips, and my book, which is Good Night and God Bless, which is the last 18 months of my mother's life.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And to our
You.
listeners, we just want to ask you to join us and be a giver of hope. You can download a graphic for that. You can do it personally if you're an individual or if you're an organization. We are Givers of Hope, or I'm a Giver of Hope. And you can go ahead and link that to Alzheimer's Speaks or Dementia Map. If you are part of Dementia Map, link it right to your page and get people there. It's all about sharing information and resources. We've got to make it easier, and we have to make that hope the first thing that people realize that there is, and it will be an amazing journey if they allow it to be. So thank you so much. We'll see you all next time. And
Thank
keep
you,
us
ladies.
posted on your events too. We always like to hear, and same with your book launch, Julie. Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Lori.
Have a delicious day.
Nice meeting you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye bye.